Hi, everyone. Welcome to our CityCon session, Spinnaker at Cisco, scaling to support large, diverse applications. My name is Balaji Siva. I'm VP of Product at OpsMX. OpsMX, for people who don't know, we provide intelligent continuous delivery solution based on Spinnaker CD. Besides enhancing Spinnaker to support various use cases, we also provide intelligence in terms of approval, intelligent approval, as well as machine learning-based verification, policy and audit, and other features. I'm excited to be part of this CDCon. I've been part of the Spinnaker community for over 4 years, and I've seen it grow from the very beginning. I'm excited to be here. And today we have with us Anil Anaberumutt. He's a technical system architect at Cisco, who is a big user of Spinnaker, and he's going to share with us their learnings and lessons learned. Anil, welcome to the talk.
Thanks, Balaji, and thanks for the invitation on the CDCon. I'm pretty excited to have this discussion with you. I'm working as a technical systems architect in Cisco. I'm part of the DevSecOps team. It's a centralized team which provides continuous delivery services and the tooling services in the DevSecOps area for across Cisco data centers and the global business operation centers. So yes, I'm happy to talk, have this discussion with you.
Absolutely. Today by the way, we have done this talk with Anil and myself or mini Spinnaker Summit. Today we thought we'll combine the Q&A with the slides so it helps the conversation. So we're going to talk initially about the current state of Spinnaker at Cisco, and then we'll talk about some of the current deployment patterns that is used, and as well as future deployment patterns that's planned at Cisco. And finally, our section, we will talk about some of the requirements that Anil has seen, as well as I have seen when people are deploying CD at scale, right? Those could be self-service, policy, verification, analytics, etc. And we'll cover some of those details. So let's dive right into it. Anil, why don't you talk about what's the current state of Spinnaker at Cisco? I know you've been using for a while. Tell us about like number of applications or how you're using it, and then maybe we'll have some follow-up questions.
So as you know, Balaji, our journey started from 2015, but actually we went live with Spinnaker in 2018. And as you rightly said, we have been discussing about how we adopt Spinnaker across multiple areas. And you see the numbers of just growing, and we are kind of growing as we speak. We have enabled multiple applications across multiple technologies.
And I think, so how do you, I mean, this is a pretty significant deployment, right, of Spinnaker, one of maybe the larger size deployments that I'm aware of. What is your, how do you deploy? Do you deploy one instance of Spinnaker or multiple instances of Spinnaker? How do you deploy Spinnaker?
We have multiple Spinnaker instances. We had 17 instances last year, which was catering to multiple business areas like the IT and the customer experience. But as we are venturing Spinnaker into engineering stuff, we have a couple of other instances. So we are growing in terms of managing Spinnaker, and we have multiple Spinnaker install multiple data centers to ensure we have high availability, as well as making sure that we have disaster recovery and resilience covered. So that's how we are managing our Spinnaker instances in Cisco, but we are growing as we speak.
Right. And from my understanding today, you are deploying Spinnaker in OpenShift environments. And you're also trying to look in the future towards deploying in AWS. Can you maybe talk about what's some of the reasons for migrating to AWS?
Yes, we have 17 instances of Spinnaker running on OpenShift, which is running on OpenStack platform. But we also have two instances which are purely installed on Kubernetes clusters, which are catering for engineering clients. But as you rightly said, because of the rise of SaaS and the cloud-based, we are also looking at how we can take Spinnaker to the cloud so that a lot of our clients who are already on the client on the cloud can leverage Spinnaker instead of rather coming to on-prem and going to cloud. We want to leverage the multi-tenancy and the availability of Spinnaker in the specific cloud regions, and that's the reason why we are trending towards AWS and other clouds as well.
Got it. And let's now, in the next section, we will dive into, like a little bit of current deployment patterns. I see a lot of logos here, so we really want to get into it. So let's talk about the cloud deployment patterns that you're seeing. Walk us through sort of the main big bucket of deployment patterns. I'm sure a large company like yours, you have a lot of variations of patterns, but maybe the audience would be more interested in sort of like what are the big things, big areas of patterns you're seeing in your at Cisco.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of areas. Primary area being the internal cloud. That is what most of the companies tend towards. A lot of deployments happen on the internal cloud, and we call that a CAE platform, which is nothing but an OpenShift platform. And most of our deployments are catering towards the internal cloud, and they all use Spinnaker as the deployment orchestration. But we are not but also there are a lot of SaaS products, right? I think we spoke about Snowflake last time when we had our discussion. So not only Snowflake, there is Salesforce, there are other SaaS products that we enable deployments to. I think that is very related to data as a platform. But we are also looking at clients who are also doing application deployments to multi-cloud. It could be AWS, it could be GCP. Now we have a lot of clients on the Azure as well. So we are trying to enable the same level of standards, not only standards from a same kind of deployment pipeline that could be leveraged irrespective of where the client is hosting his deployment to, right? And that's how we are trending. So primarily it's the CA, and secondary is the SaaS, and the third one is the public clouds that we are looking at.
Got it. OpenShift, SaaS, and public clouds. And how? I mean, this is a primary workload right now, right, on this platform. The most of the statistics you shared with us, the previous slide, are these three big items.
That's right. So these are the primary ones, but we also are catering to multiple other workloads. Those are kind of our future workloads that we are working towards.
And what are some of the we'll keep it short, obviously, but any quick learning, as you scale to support. These are by the way, this is the ones you described, the SaaS, not the SaaS part, the on-prem Kubernetes clusters like OpenShift and the public cloud. It's sort of the typical, use case, right? Most people start off, and obviously the SaaS is something you're doing, sort of, in some ways unique to you in some ways. And what are some of the big learnings, or maybe one or two learnings that you've learned so far?
One of the things that, as you're part of our journey, I think you understand more
Yeah, sure.
in terms of our challenges in terms of enabling the on-prem loads, right? Spinnaker didn't have any of those out-of-box plugins. So we had to look out for some of the custom development that we worked with your team to enable that, right? So it was not available in the market. So we had to develop some of those custom stages to enable these internal cloud deployments. I think that was one of the learning that we had, that there's a myth in Spinnaker that it's not flexible, but it's not true. We saw that our experience has been that it's quite customizable. You can have multiple workloads, and you can also tweak around in terms of what exactly is your requirement and work towards that. That's been a biggest learning for us.
Got it. I mean, yeah, definitely. I think Spinnaker can be extended, but definitely you need the expertise, right? And so I think
Yes,
at OpsMX, we work with you for throughout your org journey,
that's right.
and but it's great to see that level of success so far. All right, cool. I think I'm more excited about what's sort of one of the things you're looking in the future. Let's talk about that in the next section there. So in terms of future deployment patterns, I think from what you're telling me is obviously for what I know that this is primarily driven by some of the engineering teams or you are now starting to support, right? You were primarily started as a Cisco IT usage. Now you're starting to support more diverse groups within Cisco engineering groups that want to use Spinnaker for their use cases. So let's talk about some of the deployment patterns that you're looking to do in the future or currently in the process of enabling.
Yeah, as I was talking about, there's been a huge trend of cloud adoption, right? It's just not Cisco or any specific. I think the market trend is heading towards the public cloud. And as we are engaging with our engineering teams and the customer experience team, we see that there's a lot of trend towards infrastructure as a code, where teams are leveraging Terraform to manage their infrastructure along with their code. Till now, that was not the case, but they want to make sure that even the infra is managed as a code. I think that is one of the biggest primary trends that we are working towards, and just not the Terraform enabling Terraform, but within the Terraform itself, there are multiple use cases in terms of how you manage your Kubernetes clusters, or how do you manage your EC2 instance, or any of those things, right? So we see a lot of trends coming that way, and we are working towards towards enabling Terraform. And I think your team is helping us get some of the custom stages developed specific to these trends.
Absolutely. I think our Terraform module that we provide as part of our Spinnaker is very popular. Some of the other use cases I've seen is like people want to. I think it's more about I think it's more about towards self-service nowadays, right? People want to be able to also on-demand infrastructure. One of the use cases where you're seeing is that people are like building a QA cluster on demand and then destroying the cluster after it's done, right? In a way, it's all still part of the pipeline, so you have full access, full auditability, and full control over who can do what, because you're now part of that process. So that's definitely a use case I've seen, across other customers as well. Okay, what's next?
Yeah. Yeah, I think just adding on to that, it's
Yeah.
you're spot on in terms of why we need Terraform. Is there are a lot of engineering teams, they do want to test their patch or any of the change requests that they're doing, and they spin up their clusters and then test and destroy that. And that's been the primary motive in terms of enabling this pipeline. The second one has been the helm. I think once the clusters are spun up, there are a lot of teams that they want to leverage helm to for their deployments into not only production, but they want to manage their templates and other things based on test environment or the staging environment or a final practice run or specific multiple production environments, right? So we see helm coming into picture as one of the biggest deployment patterns.
Okay. And I see the custom VMware. That let's talk about that. That's definitely an area of interest for a lot of customers who still are on their VMware legacy infrastructure.
Yeah, I think this is a common trend across the market. I've seen that people leveraging that because even though there be a lot of applications are public cloud, but there's a lot of things that we at the enterprise level, you still see a lot of applications which are unique towards each individual companies to be hosted on their own custom VM or VMwares, right? There are a lot of testing that happens on the VMs before those images or the patches are being distributed. So we kind of enable that in the Spinnaker pipeline so that there is the same development lifecycle for the development team, irrespective of whether it's a cloud or a on-prem or a SaaS. So we want to make sure that the experience remains the same for the developer, even for his own custom VM and testing that they do.
And this is through a custom stages in Spinnaker. Is that how you do it, or?
That's correct. That's correct. We have developed a custom stage called Bring Your Own Script. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not bringing your own script. You can also bring your own container image. Leveraging
Mm-hmm.
that, you can execute kind of a serverless architecture where you spin up your VMs, you update your RPM files on the VMs or the OVA files, and then you can host your application onto that, run your tests, and then
Mm-hmm.
validate whether those specific images are good to go, right? So these are
Mm-hmm.
some of the use cases that we see before even they patch it to a public cloud. So they test it
Yeah.
on-prem and patch it off, right? So
I mean,
this is
there's
a common trend. It's just not Cisco, it's a common trend. I see that happening in the market.
yeah, absolutely. I think now I was thinking when you were talking, I mean, we should probably do a separate session on this because this seems like a very
Yes.
interesting topic for a lot of people. So maybe we should plan for another day on that one. How you do that? Maybe share more details around this topic. All right. Um, the next topic, I guess, next section we want to really kind of maybe the next 10 minutes or so is to spend around, I think, getting your thoughts around some of the requirements you have seen for your platform as you start scaling, right? You already at a good scale right now, and what are some of the challenges or issues or things that you've seen and how you maybe have solved yourself. But also, I want to really understand your sort of industry perspective as well, right? So let's get into it. Um, I think based on number of deployments and number of applications I saw in the first slide, you have a lot of teams, a lot of developers. They want to be able to automatically create a pipeline and be able to define their targets, and be able to, I'm guessing they want to be able to deploy end to end without any sort of a ticketing system that takes 10 days to provision something, right? So tell me about your perspective of how you think self-service requirements are in the industry or the city, and sort of how Cisco may have implemented that.
Yeah, I think the self-service, when you talk about at an enterprise level, I think it's one of the key stuff. When your volume and your number of users are huge, you want to bring that self-service mode, irrespective of what tool sets you have. I think one of the things that we have cracked is how do we enable developers to onto the Spinnaker, not only Spinnaker, the whole end-to-end CI/CD pipeline. So we learned this over a period of time where we used to have our own ticketing system. As you rightly said, it used to take 3 days, 4 days to raise a ticket and get them. But we have built a developer experience platform where a user can go and request for a pipeline, right? It's just not the pipeline. He will get access to the console. He can get access to all the service details that he's going to do. Not only service detail, he'll also get a command CLI where he wants to automate his own services, right? So he has that ability to do that. And the last but not the least, he will also have the ability to see the analytics as well as a part of his stack request. So this is one of the common trends. I think people in the market, I've seen people struggle a bit. They try to manage manually, but when you have a huge volume, you need to have a self-service. I think without that, it becomes very tough to manage, even leverage, trace, and keep the governance at that level, right? It becomes very difficult. I think this is something which we have cracked a lot.
Right, right. I think, definitely we are seeing the need. I think one of our primary focus with our enterprise Spinnaker Open OpsMX Enterprise is around the day zero, day one, right? That's sort of the biggest problem of people allowing user onboarding, developer on application onboarding, and we have definitely put an effort into that, and we learned a lot from working with you guys over the last few years for sure. So the next topic is, I think this is something that's very interesting to me because we have been doing this kind of work for a long time. The verification of deployments, right? Either a canary deployment or a blue-green deployment. Um, you know, the way I see it is, if you really want to achieve like a CD at a scale, you need to be able to do this faster, because you can't take hours to analyze something and also triage any issues. You can't take hours that essentially you stop the pipeline, so to say, and stop the deployment. But I think the ability to do that at scale is a big challenge. Does Cisco, or from your opinion, what's your opinion on, like, say, safe deployments, and how much of that is practiced at Cisco? And can you maybe share your thoughts on that?
I think the automated safe deployment verification, I think this is the trend that's in the market, right? And everybody wants to be there. We are within Cisco, there are pockets of teams who are matured in the cloud or the cloud native world of deployments. They understand the canary, they understand the blue-green deployments. There are pockets of teams leveraging these techniques, but it's still in the design state from a Cisco perspective. We are trying to explore to see how exactly we can scale it to the whole enterprise versions. So we are working towards that. We do provide kind of best practices for the teams to leverage some of the canary analysis or the blue-green deployments, but it's happening in pockets. It's still in a design state, I would say.
Got it. Yeah, I remember another customer who has about 1,000 services, and they have enabled it for 10%, which is 100 services, which is not bad, but still definitely, from an adoption, it's still, I think it's an aspirational goal in many cases, I think. But it is something, I think, that if you really want to scale your CD deployments, and how Netflix is doing, thousands of deployments a day, they're able to do it with a verification on automated, right? And that's the only way to do it. So it's great. And this is another topic that's around the similar topic around how do you do it at scale, which is policy automation, right? You have all these developers creating all these pipelines, and you want to make sure that there are multiple policies: enterprise policies, compliance policy, a security policy. All of them need to be enforced. So maybe you could share your thoughts around what you think, and also how Cisco is looking into it.
We are high on policy, right? So we are SOX applications. We make sure that we are compliant with PCI DSS. As I showed you, we as a part of the self-service enablement, we ensure that the applications are associated with SOX or PCI DSS. Make sure that those specific policies are met. From the get-go of RBAC, role-based access control, what control should a developer have, what control should a QA should have, a manager should have, or a tester should have, right? So we ensure that those policies are met from the get-go of a pipeline. But we also ensure that there are a lot of SOX validation, specifically on the finance and HR applications, which are going through the production changes. Make sure that those are met within the final practice run or the non-prod environments before even they go to the production. So we ensure everything is automated. There's no manual intervention in terms of policy audit or policy validation. Everything is automated. We ensure that specific test cases have been executed, has been current within the last 7 days. Make sure the approvals are there. So it's all automated as a part of our CI/CD pipeline currently.
Yeah, got it. And I know that this is something you built it internally, because there's a complexity of the policy involved. because you have a lot of policies from an IT perspective. And I know that you're working with us on sort of engineering organization. You're looking at our OES based policy engine to enable policy for the developers, for the engineering teams.
Yeah, we have shared our best experiences, best practices in terms of gates, the policies, what needs to be enabled and other things with you guys. And because we are leveraging engineering teams, they have their own policies, right? So they want to see how they can modify or how they can dynamically change some of the policies as the policy keeps changing with the specific policy owners and other things. They want to keep that they want to make sure that the specific developer is not worried about the policy, and the specific policy owner takes care of how that needs to be enabled. I think that is something which we are trying to explore. If there are any tool sets, like as you said, we are trying to see if we can explore your tool set and on the engineering side and see how exactly that would work. That's what we are looking for.
Yeah, the way we built it is through the OPA policy framework, right? So that means that you can write Rego policies, right? Rego language policies, so you can customize it, and that's really, I think, what you've seen interaction with developers. Who want to write and change their, maintain. Obviously, you want to version control. You want approval process for those policies. You're not going to let them change it. Whatever, but you still want to do that. But at least it's very customizable, right? It's very lightweight. So that's something people have used it. Great.
You can call that as policy as a code.
Yeah, exactly. No, it is actually as code, and you actually be maintained in Git, and you version control it.
That's right.
But definitely very, very, very flexible in that sense. Right? It's not, you don't have to go through 6 months of requirement or change requirements. It's more like, okay, you change it, somebody can approve it, you're good to go on that policy. All right, so let's maybe before we wrap it up, talk about a couple of topics, which is, I think, very interesting. One is around analytics, which is basically is knowing what's happening, right, around the code quality or release, what's happening, how many releases are happening. Obviously, different stakeholders are there, so you have to have visibility and trackability of these things, and also security, right? And so, well, let's talk about, like, what is your thoughts on that, and what Cisco is doing specifically in this case.
Yeah, analytics has been the talk of the town in the DevOps space, right? But I think we are high on analytics, specifically on the quality. When I say quality, it's at all levels. It's at the code level, it's at the service level, it's at the application level, even at the organization level, right? So we want to make sure that we control some of these qualities and track them, right, at each levels. And we have our own analytics system, which ensures that we have quality analytics tracked at the code level. We also track the analytics at the security level. We want to make sure the DAS security is met, the SaaS security is met. SaaS is nothing but the source code, and DAS is nothing but the dynamic application security, right? So we want to make sure that there are no vulnerabilities that is passed on to any of the production environments, because it's an enterprise version. We are not only that, we also look at the release analytics. How is the release trending? What is the prediction of the releases? How many changes are going? What is the volume of changes going at an application level, service level? Again, at different levels, you need to track different metrics, right? So we have ensured that our analytics is across the board.
Got it. And I think this is absolutely, it's not surprising really, but the value of analytics is pretty high, because a lot of people, once they've sort of gotten past their sort of day-to-day, like, okay, how do I automate a pipeline? And this seems to be the most interesting for a lot of users, because they then get a higher level view of what's happening, right? And so we have, at OpsMX, we have put a lot of effort into that. And I think in this case, you built a lot of the things yourself, right? And over the years, and definitely it will be something useful for other customers who's looking to get analytics from DevOps. And last thing is around compliance and audit, and maybe traceability. what kind of audit requirements you have for your CD, and what are some of the things you say? I guess, or you need to track for sure. Like, somebody who's listening in would need to track for sure for different audit requirements, and also maybe you can touch upon how do you do traceability, like, or what are the requirements around traceability? If something does go wrong in the production, what are some of the traceability requirements you have?
Yeah, this is one of the areas that we are continuously been working on, and we see that in the future also we'll be working on that. Specifically on the compliance audit, it's not just the application deployment audit itself, but we ourselves as a platform are also tend to be audited, because since we are handling the deployments to the financial HR, and the data flowing through Spinnaker pipelines are quite intensive in terms of the specific, right? So our application itself gets audited through a SOX or any of those Six Sigma and other things, right? So we have quarterly, 6 months, yearly audit that happens. There are a lot of audits which take samples of deployments, applications. They also audit at the role-based access. Who approved it? When did he approve? Did he approve based on the specific meta information and all those things, right? So that happens on a regular basis. Traceability is something which we are currently working towards. That we are still not at the desired state. We tend to trace from a release back to the source code, and that's our goal. How do we say that a change that happened in the production, if it fails, how do we trace back to the code, or how do we trace back to the service, or how do you trace back to the specific application, right? I think that is where we are working towards that. We kind of achieve some bit of it, but we are not till the desired state. But I think that's the market trend that is happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at OpsMX we are absolutely focused on providing 100% audit, and we just released a traceability feature in the latest release that just came out last week. Um, because basically the DevSecOps, right? They really want to know what's happened, right? And they want to know how to trace back vulnerabilities like SolarWinds, kind of a bugs, etc. So that's a very,
Yeah.
very, very interesting use cases. Now,
And
this is.
exactly, that's the point. I think that's the reason why we want to be on the we want to capture data across all the instance, all the steps of the pipeline, right? That's why we
Mhm.
make sure that metrics is captured at the code level, at the build level, at the binary level, at the deployment orchestration level, at the release level. Not only we don't stop there, we also try to tend to pull all the platform uh, logs using
Mhm.
Splunk and HANA
Mhm.
and other stuff, but we are not able to still hook it up. But we are trending towards that to make sure that any production issue that happens, you should be able to trace back using all this meta information.
Excellent. So thanks so much, Anil. I think this was really useful. Hopefully the audience found it useful in terms of knowledge sharing. And I think, we had a short time to cover a lot of material, right? And if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to us. You have our email addresses right there, or Twitter. Reach out to us and we'll be happy to share more information and walk us through our lessons learned. Again,
Thanks,
Anil, thank
Balaji.
you so much for your time, and see you soon.
Thanks, Balaji. It's always fun to talk to you.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone. And if there's a questions, please feel free to ask the questions. We will be around to answer the questions.